Hey, what's up, America? Government shutdown flight delays. So as of today, there's been approximately 10,000 flight delays across America and cancellations. The Orlando airport was virtually closed because of flight cancellations and flight delays. Same over at Newark Airport in Newark, New Jersey. Shit's just not going well because people aren't there to work. And the ones that are there are experiencing not getting paid fatigue. So it looks like flight delays and cancellations are ramping up across the nation. Whether or not people get food stamps, this is still a problem. So airports in Canada are also saying that they don't want to fly to the United States because they're worried that planes might crash due to safety problems. So aeronautically speaking, the United States, as far as FAA safety is concerned, is now becoming a third world nation. So isn't that funny? The country that's the pinnacle of flight safety now becomes the dumpster fire of flight safety. Simply because our country is so fucking cheap, they don't want to pay a goddamn motherfuck. Now, obviously, this is the fault of the Democrats because they're leveraging the American people against what they want, which is, of course, benefits for illegal aliens and shit going overseas for LGBTQ plus communities. So, of course, as you know, that's worth flight safety, said no one ever.
Thousands and thousands of U.S. flights have already been canceled over the weekend. Well, this week it's expected to get so much worse. That's not clickbait. I'm going to run through all of this for you right now. Due to the government shutdown that's happening right now, matter of fact, the longest shutdown in all of U.S. history, there's a lot of different federal roles and workers that are furloughed or having to work without pay, right? Some of those vital roles have to deal with our aviation experts, also our air traffic controllers, who already had a major shortage before the government shutdown even happened. So the quick news here today on Monday, November 10th, is that actually 8 Democrats came over and tried to discuss with GOP leaders to get this government shutdown to end. So we could be very close to the government reopening, okay? But that's not really all we need at all for flights. Over the past weekend, so we're talking November 8th, November 9th, the airlines across the U.S. had to cancel thousands of flights to comply with the order to eliminate 4% of all flights, okay? Well, by tomorrow, Tuesday, November 11th, the scheduled flights expected to be canceled is going to probably rise to 6%, and by the end of the week, 10% of all scheduled flights in the U.S. will be canceled to comply with the new order. Now, even if the government reopens and you have air traffic controllers getting their pay again, we still have issues when it comes to training, still have issues when it comes to filling those roles, and like I said, there's a lot of backorder when it comes to these flights and their logs. So it's looking like in the near future, next week, couple of weeks, flights across from the 40 busiest airports in the U.S., plus some more, are looking to get canceled. Let me know what you think. If you've had flights get canceled, delayed, whatnot, it's a mess.
If you think the flight cancellations and delays are bad now, save and share this video because it's going to get much, much worse as next week goes on. How do I know this? Well, the FAA let us know. They're starting us off slow, only a 4% reduction. So those 1,100 flights that were canceled today, Saturday, November 8th, that's just the beginning. An additional 5,000 were delayed as a result of that, and several airports had ground stops for several hours. It's going to get so much worse. As this upcoming week goes on, they're going to ramp up to 6%, 8%, then that full 10% reduction or cancellation in flights as of next Friday. This is going to be an absolute disaster for air travel, not only in the United States, but also internationally, because guess what? International flights are also being affected. Because the situation is so fluid and flights are being canceled within 12 hours of their scheduled takeoff time in some cases, please check directly with your airline and check frequently. This week is going to ramp up and ramp up quickly. If you have any travel plans, I wish you the best of luck, but please continue to check with your airline often as to the status of your particular flight and the status of the airport you are flying out of or into, because again, we're also seeing those ground stoppages because air traffic controllers just aren't coming to work because they're not getting paid. And Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says, yeah, even when the government reopens, it's going to take some time to get back to that full 100% flight schedule to get those air traffic controllers back to work, because I'm pretty sure some of them might want to look into another job.
Sunday was the single worst day for travelers since the shutdown began. Today may not be a whole lot better. The FAA had hoped by ordering airlines to bring down the number of flights, it would ease the burden on controllers, but it really appears the burden of working without pay now for 40 days could be reaching a breaking point. A delayed and frustrating weekend for flyers. More than 25,000 delays and over 5,500 cancellations. And that's after the FAA ordered airlines to cut flights at 40 of the nation's busiest airports to take pressure off the system.
Our best case scenario is that we'll be able to leave here in 2 hours.
Much of the issue due to a surge in air traffic controllers' sick calls, hitting a shutdown high of at least 81 staffing shortfalls at FAA facilities Saturday, according to the Transportation Secretary, with more on Sunday.
We're delayed right off the get-go. We hadn't even left for the airport yet, so then we missed our connecting flight in Minneapolis.
In Atlanta, the world's busiest airport saw nearly 500 cancellations Sunday after just 4 of the 22 air traffic controllers scheduled showed up to work Saturday. The average delay hit nearly 5 hours. Dallas, Fort Myers, Florida, and all 3 of the New York City area airports were hit with staffing delays Sunday.
Family of 4 here, 4 kids were forced to kind of sleep in the airport.
Controllers are poised to miss a second paycheck this week due to the government shutdown. Airlines will again cancel 4% of flights to those 40 airports today. That'll climb to 6% Tuesday and hit 1 in 10 flights by Friday. American Airlines Chief Operating Officer David Seymour.
We know people are traveling for a reason. And so what we're looking at is trying to find those options where we have reaccommodations. We are doing our best to get them on another routing to get them ultimately to their destination.
Do you have any concerns about the safety of the system today?
I have no concerns about the safety. I think this adds some margin.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says more flights may need to be cut. All right, so expect additional cancellations today because of the meltdown yesterday, and airlines are right now locking in the cancellations for the rest of the week from that FAA order. One thing to think about, as lawmakers may need to make their way back to Washington to vote in the House, every day there will be fewer and fewer available seats to get back to D.C., and the Thanksgiving travel rush starts a week from Friday, Nate.
Well, good morning, guys. Well, Sunday was the worst flying day in this country since the shutdown began. A nightmare combination, really, of FAA-mandated flight reductions plus air traffic controller staffing shortages around the country. Here in Newark, for instance, yesterday you had a third of the flights that were canceled. You're talking about half of the flights delayed on average 75 minutes. If you look at it in totality nationwide, there were more than 10,000 delays. There were 2,800 cancellations nationwide, according to FlightAware. Now, the hardest hit airports, Atlanta, Hartsfield, Jackson, Chicago's O'Hare, and Newark, New Jersey. Now, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is warning things are going to get worse.
I think what's going to happen is you're going to have air travel slow to a trickle. As everyone wants to travel to see their families, I think we're going to see air traffic controllers, very few of them coming to work, which means, yes, you'll have a few flights taking off and landing at our different airports across the country. But the thousands of flights that happen every day to move people around the country for this great American holiday, it's not going to happen. You're going to have massive disruption.
But there is some hope here. News yesterday that the Senate will move forward to end the shutdown. Airlines for America, which represents the largest U.S. airlines, saying, quote, at a time of record air travel and increased reliance on cargo shipments, it is more important than ever to ensure that our nation's airspace is safe, reliable, and open. We strongly encourage the Senate to pass it swiftly and send it to the House with urgency. And a live look at FlightAware's misery map this morning shows that there are more than 1,500 cancellations in the U.S., more than 1,000 delays already. Chicago, Atlanta, LaGuardia, and Newark are the worst. And a live look here at the board here at Terminal A, Newark. You can see maybe a couple of cancellations, some delays. All in all, though, the data shows that there are already more than 80 cancellations and 60 delays out of Newark. A lot of these folks here this morning are the lucky ones. The first flights are usually the best for the day. We'll see how the rest of the day goes. The FAA flight reductions, 6% mandated tomorrow, 10% by Friday. Guys?
All right, thanks, Brian.
Hope we'll get a vote by Wednesday, right?
We thought yesterday was bad with travel. Wait till it gets to 10%.
You know, people hear about Trump's tariffs and they think, America's just picking fights. Hey, that's not what it is. I want you to picture it like this. The United States, they manage this big apartment building. And years ago, China moved in when they were broke. So we gave them a sweetheart deal. I mean, dirt cheap rent, like $1,500 a month. Everybody else is paying $5,000 a month. Now, fast forward 20, 30 years, in China, they are just rolling in the cash, or building skyscrapers and buying up half the neighborhood. Guess what, though? You're still paying the same $1,500. I mean, meanwhile, everybody else's rent just keeps going up. So let me ask you something. I mean, how long are you supposed to let somebody skate by like that before you say, hey, it's time to pay your fair share? Another analogy, same thing at a flea market. Let's say you're selling handmade chairs for $50. Then China shows up and they're selling them for $20. You know, but they're cheating. They got free supplies and they underpay their people and they don't pay any taxes. I mean, you can't compete with that. So you start charging them a booth fee to even it out. I mean, that's all the tariffs are. It's not bull.
Donald Trump just announced on Truth Social that Americans are going to receive $2,000 in dividend payments thanks to tariff money. But don't get too excited because here comes Scott Bessent from the Trump administration walking that back a few moments later. Watch.
The $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms, in lots of ways, George. You know, it could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. You know, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So, you know, those are substantial deductions that, you know, are being financed in the tax bill.
So that Trump administration official is basically saying, look, these payments could come in a variety of ways. We can either do a cash payment, we can do a tax credit, or nothing at all because Donald Trump's plans are already saving us so much money. And if you think I'm splitting hairs, here's the definition of dividends, which is the word that Donald Trump used in his Truth Social post. I hope people are really understanding how the administration is operating because they will make this bold claim and later walk it back. But by then, it's too late to unring that bell.
Donald Trump just posted, people that are against tariffs are fools. And now he's dangling a $2,000 dividend check.
Jesus Christ.
Sounds good, right? Free money until you realize you're the one paying for it. He's bragging about record markets while the U.S. is drowning in $37 trillion of debt. That's like being broke and flexing a Rolex. Tariffs sound patriotic, don't they? But they jack up prices. Food, cars, clothes, everything goes up while they hand you a $2,000 bonus. Last part's the most important. This is the exact move from 2020. Print money, spike inflation, and pretend it helps. If you think inflation's bad now, wait till they print that money. God damn! They're literally recycling your cash and calling it a gift. It's a hustle wrapped in a headline. Yeah, take the $2K if they send it, of course. But no, this isn't a gift. It's a bribe for your silence. Tariffs are up, inflation up, and you're the one paying the bill. Make sure to follow or subscribe for more up-to-date news that you won't hear anywhere else.
So, Steve, justices expressed some skepticism, but we don't know how they're ruled, not yet. But let's say, for the sake of argument, they do say the president does not have the authority to impose these tariffs. They have to go away. What we've heard from Trump blustering, well, that will crush the American economy, if that's the case. Can you tell us what will actually happen?
Well, it's going to be a big mess. First of all, we don't know how they're going to rule, but the prediction markets, for what it's worth, think there's over an 80% chance that the president's going to lose. So then you come to at least two, and maybe more implications for us. One is the tariffs have been bringing in a significant amount of revenue, $200 billion in the government fiscal year that just ended, projected $300 billion in the fiscal year that just started. And so maybe nobody cares about the deficit, but that is revenue. The second question is, what do you do?
Right.
Does the court order that this money be refunded? You'd think that if money was taken illegally from companies or individuals, they should get it back. Mm-hmm. But unwinding that and figuring out who gets what money, you can't even begin to imagine what that does. The third thing that is going to be an unbelievable mess is that Trump went off and did all these trade deals using these tariffs as his bargaining chip with the Europeans, with whomever. And so all those other countries are going to say, well, wait a minute, if you don't even have the authority to use the weapon that you were using to get us to do this deal, then we're out of here and no more deal. And you get to go start all over again. There's nothing that business hates more than uncertainty. And business has now been planning around a set of tariffs in terms of moving some production back here, doing this, that, and the other thing. And now they're going to have to figure out what to do next. And it could be weeks or months before we even know what this decision is. And so he has basically taken the ball and kind of thrown it in the grandstand, and there will be significant economic consequences of all of it.
Donald Trump says we're all going to get $2,000, and I say he's full of shit. So he called me a fool. At least that's according to his Truth Social post, where he said a dividend of $2,000 a person will be paid to everyone, not including high-income people, and those that are against tariffs are fools. I'm against tariffs. I'm a fool. I'm also not going to see $8,000 for my family, and nobody else is either. This is just Donald Trump trying to distract everybody once again. Over the summer, it was going to be $5,000 a person. Josh Hawley has put in a bill in the Senate for $600 a person, including dependents. None of this is going to happen. That money has to stay in a pot right now because once the Supreme Court rules that Donald Trump's tariffs are illegal, well, all that tariff money is going back to the businesses that paid it, and you and I are going to get screwed by the government once again because those businesses aren't going to lower the costs or the prices that they have already raised. So we've paid out for the tariffs on buying everyday items, including food, and those prices, they're not going to go back down after the tariffs are deemed illegal. They're going to remain elevated, and we're going to continue to pay those prices.